Hello friends, welcome to Civil's Right YouTube channel. My name is Avinash Agarwal and in this video I'll be discussing with you the following topic. Nearly all men can stand adversity, but to test the character, give him power. So ये UPSC Civil Services Main Examination 2024 का essay topic है which appeared in section B. This was topic number 2 in section B. I'll be providing a detailed understanding of this topic to you. आपका काम है इस टॉपिक के ऊपर essay लिखना, उसको स्कैन करना and to send it us and support@civilsright.com. We will be offering a free evaluation to everybody who will be sending their essays to us. Let us start with the discussion. This is a very beautiful article which I have picked up from the Harvard Business Review. अभी तक मैंने जितना भी essays के fodder material provide करे हैं उसके अंदर I have selected 10 articles, 12 articles and हर एक articles के अंदर से I have selected something or the other which builds up the fodder of the essay which I have provided to you. But in this case इतना प्यारा आर्टिकल है, इतना अच्छा आर्टिकल है that I wanted to discuss as it is the entire article with you. So complete thanks to the Harvard guys, complete thanks to UPSC and complete thanks to you for watching this video. Right, so it's a very beautiful article which will help you in understanding that how power corrupts and how if you want to test somebody's character, give him or her power. Right, so this is almost a 3000 word essay which I'll be discussing with you. So you see that this essay starts with a story. It starts with the story of a physician. So her name is Vera Cordero, right? Vera Cordero. So Vera Cordero की कहानी कुछ इस प्रकार है. So she was working for impoverished children का healthcare in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, right? She was a part of this Lagoa Public Hospital. So उनका frustration क्या था कि जो बेसिक इलनेसेस थे, बेसिक बीमारियां थी जिनको प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल्स में आराम से टेक केयर करा जा सकता है, जो रिच फैमिलीज आराम से टेक केयर कर सकते हैं, पुअरर फैमिलीज आर नॉट इवन एबल टू मैनेज दोज डिजीजेस. इन पुअरर फैमिलीज पेशेंट्स these diseases are becoming almost like death sentences. Why? Because if you're a part of a poorer family, you cannot afford regular meals, you cannot afford sanitary living conditions, and she wanted to do something about it. So she created this NGO called Brazil Child Health. Now you know that if you want to run an NGO, you need money, you need funding. So what did she do? So initially she was relying on her personal funds, on families, on friends. But then she realized that this is not going to be sufficient and she needs the support of the rich and powerful. Now, Vera, she herself is uninterested in power. She is repelled by power. She doesn't want to, circulate in the elite so-called of the society, right? But eventually she has to attract funding for which she starts interacting with the elite, interacting with the richer section of the society, and eventually her NGO becomes country's most successful non-profit. She starts getting a lot of accolades, she starts getting recognized, she starts giving speeches in World Economic Forum, she starts getting awarded, and around this time there comes a fundamental change in her character. She starts getting troubling feedback from her colleagues who complain that they are not being treated nicely by her, who feel that they are being intimidated by her, that she's running roughshod over their ideas, right? Her own adult daughter, she says that mom, it seems that you care more about your awards, you care more about these high profile events that you are participating in rather than the actual work that you are doing, right? And Vera herself realizes that this immersion in power is changing her. This immersion in power is changing her. So you see that this is a beautiful story which is essentially talking about the fact that Vera was trying to handle the adversity and she was handling the adversity, right? The adversity being that she was facing this challenge that the work that she was doing for impoverished children, that work was very demanding, very taxing. It must have been very difficult for Vera to see that her patients are suffering, for her to raise funds, etc., etc. So she has withstood that. She has been able to come out of that. But now what is happening is that the moment she has power, the moment she has some amount of control over what's happening, so people around her are giving her this negative feedback, right? So the idea is that just because you are wary of power or you didn't want power in the first place doesn't mean that you will not abuse that power once you have it. That is what this beautiful essay is saying. So this is what a good introduction looks like, what you are seeing above. And this is what a very good linking statement looks like. So this is going to now take us into the proper body of the essay, that we have introduced the topic, We have understood where we are going, and now we will be looking at why people start abusing power, right? Why is it that power is so intoxicating, right? So there are two traps that we need to be very careful of when we are powerful. One is hubris, and the second one is self-focus, right? So when I speak about hubris, right, what do I mean? It's about having excessive pride. It's about having excessive self-confidence. So when you are powerful, okay, your thinking gets clouded to a certain extent by these elements of pride and self-confidence. Now things that I have highlighted or statements that I have highlighted in yellow, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट स्टेटमेंट्स हैं. आपको इन स्टेटमेंट्स को अच्छे से समझना होगा, राइट? सो हार्वर्ड बिजनेस रिव्यू का ये आर्टिकल है. सो इसमें ये लिखा जा रहा है कि देयर वाज अ स्टडी दैट वाज डन, and participants of the study, they were, half the participants were asked to write about a experience or write about a time when they felt powerful, and half of the participants were asked to write about a time or a feeling when they were feeling powerless. ठीक है? So you are, आपने इस स्टडी के अंदर पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हो. Let us say that you have written that you are feeling powerless, and I have written about, let us say that I am feeling powerless. We are done with writing. नाउ एज अ पार्ट ऑफ द स्टडी हमारे को एक डाई दी जाती है, डाई जो हम लूडो वगैरह के अंदर यूज करते हैं, गोटी, उसको हम डाई बोलते हैं, राइट? डाई दी जाती है 1 2 3 4 5 6 वाला डाई, राइट? अब बोला ये जाता है, राइट, दैट यू विल बी गिवन अ रिवॉर्ड इफ यू करेक्टली प्रिडिक्ट द आउटकम ऑफ अ रोल. यानी कि अगर डाई को रोल करेंगे, what will be the outcome if you correct it predictly, you will get a reward. Now see what happens, right? So all those who, every single participant who wrote about feeling powerful, they themselves roll the die. वो इतना confident है कि हाँ हम die खुद अपने हाथ से roll करेंगे, we will predict the number and we will get the reward. They are that confident. And only 58% of those who had written about feeling powerless, they roll the die themselves, right? So they don't, so 42% say that the experimenter will roll the die. ठीक है? So just imagine this, what is happening, कि आपको पावरफुल होने का सिर्फ आपने लिखा है, राइट? और उसके बाद आप इतना कॉन्फिडेंस में जा चुके हैं कि आपके सामने एक्सपेरिमेंट रखा जाता है, आप पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं और आप खुद ही अपनी डाई रोल करते हैं, थिंकिंग यू विल बी एबल टू प्रिडिक्ट द नंबर दैट विल बी कमिंग, राइट? सो व्हाट इज द एक्सपेरिमेंट कंक्लूडिंग विद? Experiment is concluding with saying that just by recalling the experience of power, just by recalling the experience of power, you feel so great about yourselves, you feel so great about your abilities, right, that you feel that, you know, even the random roll of die will be in your favor. That is the takeaway from this particular discussion of this highlighted portion. So that is what power does to you. It gives you an exaggerated sense of your own abilities. ठीक है? So just by, so what is the author saying? Author is saying कि if you are, you know, just writing about when you are feeling powerful, and just by writing about being powerful, it affects your behavior in this manner. So just imagine that you are a CEO or a ruler of a country or something for 5 10 15 years. Just imagine the kind of pride, the kind of self-confidence that you will be having, right? So those CEOs who have been lauded for success, who have been decorated, awarded, recognized, they become very overconfident. And ultimately, because of their overconfidence, they feel that they cannot do anything wrong. They end up paying, this is one scenario, they can end up paying inflated price for the companies that they are acquiring if the board vigilance is not there. And whose loss is it? It is shareholders' loss. Meaning that, you know, their decisions do get clouded. They sense that ki anything that I touch will become gold kind of a scenario probably starts, you know, taking over their thought process. That is what this particular author is suggesting over here. There is another study, right? There is another study which helps you understand what power does to you. ठीक है? So in this scenario, what is happening is that half of the people are asked that you have to, so let's say that this is a scale, and on this scale, where do you stand as compared to some of the richest and the most powerful people in America? So half the people who are asked to do this, they must have given this kind of a marking that, you know, they are not very high on the scale. And remainder half of the participants, they were asked as compared to the poorest or the most weakest Americans, let's say, where do you stand? So they must have given themselves high ranking, right? So what has happened over here is, right, So this researcher, they asked participants to think about either those with the most wealth and prestige and then mark their own position. Okay? And then the other group was asked to think about the poorest and then mark their positions. Right? After this study was done, after first half was done, they were given a very famous test called reading the mind in the eyes. Reading the mind in the eyes meaning some photographs were given. Some photographs were given, okay, to them, and these guys they had to look into the eyes and say कि what is the other person's emotional state. जिसकी फोटो वो देख रहे हैं, what is that person's emotional state, right? So ये वो जो high ranking वाले थे, right, who are feeling very good about themselves, who are feeling very powerful, etc., right? So they were very much less accurate, right? And these guys who were not so feeling so great about themselves because they realize that, okay, even as per their estimates, they are ranking far below. So they were far more accurate. They were far more attentive to others' emotions. So what does this study indicate to you? This study again indicates you, this study tells you that this feeling of power, it affects your ability to be able to perceive the emotions of others, to be able to map the network of others, to map the emotions of others. You become insensitive to others, to people around you, right? So having an understanding of emotions of people around you is a very, very important aspect or element of leadership. But if you are becoming a leader who becomes insensitive towards emotions of people around you, right, then that means that you are not going to be so effective. Your colleagues, they will feel that you don't understand them. Your colleagues, they will not be feeling motivated. They will not feel like punching above their weight. So this is the problem. And this is a very beautiful explanation of what power does to you, right? Now this can happen to anybody. This problem can happen to anybody, like we saw in Vera's case. Now the question is that what do you do about it? Okay. So there is a solution. And in my opinion, I think that in this essay, it will be great if you can also discuss the solution apart from the problem. The solution could be to cultivate humility so that you do not have hubris, and you can cultivate empathy so that you do not have too much of self-focus, so that you can focus on others. Right? What we discussed in the second study, there was too much of self-focus. You are being insensitive, let us say, towards your juniors. Right? You don't care about them. And cultivating humility means that accepting that probably, okay, there are others who also know some things. So you're not the only one who is, let's say intelligent over here, right? So how do you go about cultivating humility? So the meaning of humility is that you are having freedom from pride or arrogance. So humility in this sense is basically the opposite of hubris. Humility in this sense is basically the opposite of hubris, right? So if you have, let us say, an accurate perception of your own abilities, accomplishments, and limitations, especially limitations, you are aware of your limitations, that means that you are having some level of humility, right? Like for example, now there are a lot of examples which will be coming in front of you. I'll be selectively discussing some very famous and well-to-do examples, well-known examples, which are easy to remember, right? Now, how many of us would like to publicly say in an office or in a meeting that I don't know the answer to this question, I will come back to you, right? Or I don't know how to solve this problem, I'll find out and come back to you. So not a lot of us like to say this, right? So first step in cultivating humility is to say I don't know, right? So Anne Mulcahy, she or he was the CEO of Xerox from 2001 to 2009 and was referred to as the master of I don't know by her colleagues, right? So the idea is that when your boss, right, says that, okay, I don't know, that means that your boss is giving you space to offer your expertise if you are aware about that particular scenario, or if you are aware what the situation is, the issue is, the question is, the problem is, the solution is, right? So when a leader expresses humility and is willing to accept and say that he or she doesn't know all the answers, then that leaves something on the table for team members to do. They can contribute, they can derive job satisfaction in the sense that they were able to contribute, they were able to bring something to the table. Hence retention, engagement improves, and your entire team's openness to learning improves. People are not hiding behind corners and people are not hiding behind pillars, right? So that's one way of cultivating humility, right? Saying I don't know, making it okay to say I don't know, right? Apart from that, We should also establish ways to obtain honest input regarding ourselves. As you climb higher and higher up, the distance between you and people who can, give you a good look in the mirror, the distance increases unless and until you consciously reduce this distance, unless and until you consciously create that environment where people can show you a mirror in your face, right? So the idea over here is that there are a variety of ways of doing this. Like for example, in a lot of corporates, there is this culture of having all hands, open mic, ask me anything forum, right? So the idea is that if you are participating in these kinds of meetings, everybody can give an honest and a complete feedback, a raw feedback about what they think about the other person. That's one of the ways of doing things. Another way of doing things is that how Tracy Abel over here, Tracy Abel. So Tracy Abel is a very important character. There is this very famous, very powerful, very large Ontario teachers pension plan, which is handling huge amount of money in terms of pension payments at pension contributions, and this money is deployed across the world in terms of investments. So Tracy Abel, she's the chief operation and pension officer at this fund. So she created this culture council where there are 12 team members. She trusts these 12 team members, right? And they give her a candid feedback, no holds barred kind of a feedback, right? And that keeps her grounded. And she believes that this is very, very helpful. There is CEO of Sligo, right? Sligo Country Council, right? And they have this concept of bold table. What is bold table? So in their cafeteria, there is this table, right? And people who are sitting on that table, right, they give a fairly candid feedback about what they think is happening in the company, etc., etc., right? And that kind of keeps your feet on the ground. That keeps you, down to earth, because if you are going wrong, people will say it to your face that, boss, we don't think that, this is making sense, right? And we need to create reminders that success is fleeting, because the moment we have one success, we suddenly start to think that, okay, success is something which is our birthright. That's no longer the case at all, right? So there's this very beautiful example from the Roman Empire, that whenever a Roman general used to enter into, let us say, a city victorious, right? So there used to be somebody standing behind them who would be, let us say, whispering hominum te momento, or remember that you are but a man, right? Why is it that somebody is reminding you that you are but a man? Because you are a victorious general, all conquering general entering into a city. You are brandishing your exploits, you are showing yourselves as victorious, etc., etc. So it's very important for you to get a reminder that nothing is permanent. You are but a mere mortal. Another very beautiful example that you can use is from the Facebook, office over here, right? So, Facebook's headquarters is located in the headquarters of the Sun Microsystem building. Now, Sun Microsystem is no longer the case. This company no longer exists. So, when Facebook had to, let us say, put up a logo that they are here now, so they just, like, let's say that this is the entrance, okay, and let's say that this is the logo standing over here, Sun Microsystem ka. So they just flipped the logo around, right? And they painted Facebook on the other side. So they just flipped the logo around and they painted. So Sun Microsystem is still there over here and Facebook का logo यहाँ पर डाल दिया और ऐसे करके. So why is it that Facebook, क्या उनके पास पैसा नहीं है to get a new logo made, to get a new wall erected, right? So the idea is that reverse wala sign where Sun Microsystem is still there. So it's a signal that just because you are doing well today doesn't mean that you will be around tomorrow. As simple as that, right? So it's just a reminder that at one point of time, Sun Microsystem was occupying this space. They were that big. Now they are no longer there, right? So the idea over here is that try to measure humility, try to reward humility, try to, make your team, make your people, make yourself accept the importance of humility, right? Cultivating empathy, right? So the idea is that empathy means that you are connected. The idea of empathy is that you feel that you are interdependent, right? So it's not as if that you are the only one who is running the entire show. Others are also bringing something to the table. So one way of bringing empathy, one way of involving others is that whenever you are speaking, speak in terms of we, speak in terms of ours. Don't speak in terms of I, don't speak in terms of mine, right? Don't be too self-focused. Be focused upon others as well. Okay. So that's what the broad idea is. Now, how do you cultivate empathy among other ways? So the idea is that try to stand in the other person's shoe. So if you are, let us say, a manager and you started with an entry level job, then you understand the routine, the work and the culture and the pain points of the lower level workers. You appreciate the contribution of frontline personnel, right? As compared to somebody who starts directly from a mid-level position. So if you start directly from a mid-level position, right? So it's that much more possible that you don't really feel for the lower level workers or for the frontline personal workers, right? So it's not necessarily ki this is a thumb rule, but this is generally what is seen, right? So if you experience someone else's reality, you build empathy, you will not have that self focus too much. So you will not be corrupted by power. You will not be affected that negatively, right? You can hear stories of others. People can come and narrate their stories. They can come and share their challenges. You should hear them out. You should share yours. That should become the safe talk session or a safe place where everybody can listen to each other's stories, learn and educate themselves and get inspired by others' challenges as well, right? Apart from that, you have to take steps to embed interdependence in your organization. If you want people to have empathy, if you want people to have interdependence, so this is what Microsoft did. So from their performance review process, right? So they have removed individual ratings and they are focusing on collaboration related aspects. So for example, they asked their employees that how did you contribute to the success of others? How did your results build on work, ideas and efforts of others, right? So with the moment you are asking these questions, you are completely changing the paradigm. You're completely changing the frame of reference. And ultimately you need to step out of your company into the real world to see what is happening around you. And this is a very beautiful example of Anand Mahindra, right? So Anand Mahindra's mother apparently comes from a humble background and father came from obviously the industrial family or from the wealthy background. So mother, right, she was having healthy skepticism for people who are born into money. So she sent her children outside the bungalows, outside their halls of privileges, so that she can be with, let's say, so-called commoners. So Anand Mahindra was sent to a government-run school where children from other backgrounds were also there. So it isn't as if that he was rubbing shoulders only with the elite and the privileged ones, right? So this kind of an experience, right, made Mahindra at unease with privilege. It instilled in him, right, this idea that privilege is something which is accidental. This is something which you are luckily born into. And that kind of inspired Mahindra to stay out of the family business and make a name for himself. And he joined the firm or his family business at a later time in his career when the family really needed him, right? So in Anand Mahindra's word, I have come to conclude perhaps the best way to exercise power, the most responsible way to wield power is to have very constructive discomfort with it. So staying connected to the world at large is key to developing such discomfort. If you're detached from the world, if in your own vacuum, then that's not the good thing, right? Have constructive discomfort while wielding power. If you are enjoying wielding power over others, trust me, that's a sign that you are going down the wrong road, right? So these are some of the broad ideas. So what is the conclusion? Conclusion is that you will have to develop a balanced relationship with power, right? And that is not something which is going to happen with a turn of a switch. Your emotions, your thoughts, everything need to be controlled, right? So coming back to Vera Cordiero, this is how, essays get written. Coming back to Vera Cordiero, so even when we exercise power for a noble purpose, so we remain vulnerable to its corrosive effect. So what can we do? We can cultivate humility, we can cultivate empathy, and that's how we can enable power sharing, that's how we can enable accountability of some sorts, right? And that's how we can stay away from hubris and self-focus. The day you feel that you are not answerable to others, the day you feel that you know it all, the day you feel that it doesn't matter what the other person is thinking or feeling, you're going down the wrong road, right? So Toni Morrison summed up the challenge and opportunity like this: if you have some power, then your job is to empower somebody else. That's what the idea over here is. Okay. So this is a essay length discussion of an article from Harvard Business Review, right? It deals very deeply how power, corrupts, why power giving, why, you know, we say that the test of character lies in giving some person some power, because when that person receives power and what he or she then becomes, what he or she then does with people around them, that is something which is very crucial. You can bring your own examples to the table. I really loved this article, and hence I wanted to share it with you completely out and out, right? So thank you so much. See you all in another video. All the best and Jai Hind.